Welcome to the Once a Cowboy, Always a Cowboy podcast, where you hear the history of Chaney football from the unique perspective of Coach Ron Berdis. So you go to West Branch, get your first win. The following week you play Rain, and you beat them 14-6 for your first city victory. Do you remember anything about that game?
You know, I remember what a great win it was, and I remember that they had a really good football team. I'm pretty sure if they weren't city champs, they were tied for city champs. Mm-hmm. Maybe them in South or I don't know, but Turco was the coach.
Okay.
And they had Powell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they had the general, Ray Isaac.
Oh, yeah.
Because he called me during the strike. He called me and he said, you know, he just wanted to play.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, can you think that you and Turco can get together and settle this thing? I said, well, it's not about me and Turco. I said, you know, do we want to play? I said, absolutely. And, you know, he was excited about, you know, his team and you know, beating them was a really good. I mean, it shocked the heck out of Turco. I mean, he didn't know how to react. I mean, but anyway, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I remember how we got in and how we won. I can tell you how we lost the next year in '89, which was just beyond bad. But yeah, I just remember that it was, you know, a great team win.
Okay. Then you go to play Coach Butchie and Mooney, and back to reality a little bit. You lose 25-0. Was that it? I'm assuming that might have been. Were they playing at YSU at the time?
Yeah. Okay. They were and they were a playoff team. I mean,
yeah.
They were really good, and we actually had a really good opportunity to score at the end of that game, and a penalty kept us out. But
was that still the stack at the time?
Two tights, stack eye,
belly keep, boot.
Belly, boot keep, flag dragging, and what was it? Flag, drag, and a post.
Yep.
No, it's coming. It's
yep.
It's 3rd and 15, and he's in two tights, stack eye, running boot pass. You know,
still gets it.
First
Can't
down.
stop it. Yeah.
It's my trailway against your Greyhound.
The season finale is you're playing South. You lose that in a tight one, 12-6. And would Tamron Smith have been there around that time? I know he's in the article the next year, in '88. I just wondered if he would have been in '87 or if you remember that.
Well, I know in '86 that they had the Dabney twins, mm-hmm. And we beat them in overtime. So there was a lot of excitement, build-up going into this game that they thought that they, you know, should have won the year before, and you know, we were obviously coming off of you know, winning 2 out of our last 3, and we were excited about the prospects and building for the following year, and you know, I think they had a really good defense and were able to shut Mac and Tyrone down, and we weren't able to generate much offense.
Yeah,
I actually think that we scored defensively that game.
Okay. So just looking back, 48 points scored, 162 points given up. That 16-point average, and you gave up a couple of big games there. But, I mean, obviously it sounds like, you hung your hat on your defense, which continued to be a theme throughout. Was always where we felt like, you preached to us was where you won the games, and just a really good defensive effort, struggled on offense.
Yeah.
And so what was kind of your thought process maybe going into the off season, having a full year, knowing that you needed to address some things offensively? What were you thinking about at the end of the year?
Let's get to work. Let's we held some clinics for some of the youth leagues. Was it illegal? I don't know. I mean, we always operated under the premise that if you're not allowed to do it, somebody's going to tell you to stop.
Yeah.
We used our players and meshed with the younger kids in the community, and we thought that to become a program, to get to being a program, we had to go year round.
Mm-hmm.
And to go year round, we had to make the investment so large that, again, pointing back to Red, those who stay will be champions. We wanted that commitment to be so huge that you would serve as an ambassador to the program to lure kids in and say, hey, listen, if you can do this, this, and this, then you could be part of this fraternity. You can be part of this program. So it started actually before the first thing that we ever did collectively as a team. We did this walkathon from downtown to the Southern Park Mall and back.
Wow.
My wife and I, we met with our team and to raise, I want to say it was for the Heart Association, but we got the pledges and we did that, and that became kind of like the starting point of things that we felt we needed to do in the community. Jump rope for the heart, a number of different walkathons, visiting nursing homes, adopting nursing homes. We started, actually I started it as an assistant the year before I became the head coach. We had an Olympics at the end of the year to wind down conditioning, to lead into the summer. Everything to promote team unity and kind of take your mind off of, how hard things were in the conditioning and the lifting phase of it. Kids bought into all that, and that was pretty special. I mean, inviting them over to my house and having a cookout or whatever, and the Gesslers opened. Their mom opened their pool up to the kids. We had a couple picnics. So we try to do as many things as we could that would lend itself to how important we felt what they were doing was. Mm-hmm. There was something on the news just a couple weeks ago about a coach that promoted during a snowstorm, that he had his players go out and shovel.
Yes.
Well, we were doing that.
Yeah.
And all the things that we were doing, we made it a point. We don't want any press involved because we don't want to be doing this for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
We don't want to do this to bring attention to us. We want to do this because it's the right thing to do, and for as a way for the kids to give back to the community, for being able to play this game, which we believe is the greatest game in the world. So that's how the start of our program got, and that carried into '88 with bigger expectations than we had in '87, and a little bit different results. I mean, had our quarterback back, but still struggled offensively, and again, probably because I didn't learn enough in the offseason, and be able to sell it enough. But we were better. Record was the same. We were, instead of 2-7, we were 2-8. Beat West Branch again.
Yeah.
And the rain game, as I was telling you, we had the game won, and they were city champs, and they had that full array of great players, and of all people, time's running out. It's under a minute. They throw a 60-yard Hail Mary to Powell. And get down to the 10, but we're still sitting on the lead,
right?
And they punch it and don't get in, punch it, don't get in. Now they're inside the 5. They don't have any timeouts. Clock's running. They run a play. They don't get in. They still have another down, but they don't get in. The clock's running. They can't stop it. Kid like he got shot by a dart. Goes down in the end zone, right in front of the official. The official's talking to him. Boom, he goes down. He's down on his back, and what I found out, the official is supposed to say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And make sure that he's conscious. But soon as the kid didn't hit the ground, and he's stopping the clock. So the clock stopped. Turco gets another call in, and they run a play and they get in, and that's how we lose. You're talking about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You're talking that there's no way that the play goes off if the kid don't go down, and that's when Turco came up with his infamous. I'd rather be lucky than good.
And that's what he says. I'd rather be lucky than
I'd
good.
rather be lucky than good.
Well, talking about all the extras and things that you did, one of the things that, I saw the highlight from this 1987 season, the highlight film, I should say. And the whole banquet's on there. I guess to me, just a huge event and really, really well done. Principals there, superintendent, Gridiron Club president, hundreds of people, honoring kids. It just seemed like a really, really good way to honor your players and your staff and the community. Was that always the case? Was that something that you just started?
Well, when I played for Red, we actually had 2 banquets.
Okay.
One, the first banquet was at a smorgasbord out on Market Street called the Golden Steer.
Okay.
Out there towards the Turnpike. I think it's been gone for years, but it was just herd in cars, go there, eat as much as you can, and leave.
Okay.
That was the eating banquet. And then he would usually have a banquet where he'd give out awards and whatnot with a guest speaker. I remember Tony Mason spoke one year, Bo Schembechler spoke one year, and that they were all because of players that went there from Chaney.
Right.
Red established a relationship with those guys, and they would come in. I'm pretty sure that, but I could be wrong, that the Gridiron Club was or the Booster Club wasn't paying these guys or anything. Mm-hmm. They were just doing it, as a recruiting deal.
Right.
But then it kind of. Not that Ed didn't have banquets. There were still banquets, but they were. I don't want to say, but they were. They were. They weren't as much of an event as this one was. We wanted to make it an event because it was tradition that was our that was our selling point.
Yeah.
That was what we were trying to reestablish, and maybe it was lost in '87 and '88 and '89, but from the beginning, that was our selling point. Was let's bring back this tradition and the glory days. So we tried to bring back as many guys that were out there or available. To come and honor them at the same time as we were honoring our kids, and we gave a number of awards. We didn't like to give that most valuable player or anything like that, but we did it in different areas.
Yeah, for sure. I just. It was really, that you used a great word, event. I mean, it you could tell that a lot of effort was put into it, that it was something to look forward to, and it was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
By whoever, I'm assuming you were heavily involved, but in your gridiron and key people, whoever was putting it together, it was an important deal to them, and that really came through. And I think, even all the way through when I was coaching with you, same thing. That was a tradition. You knew.
The speaking of the boosters, and that's what they were called.
Okay.
The Booster Club. When I was a player, it was automatic. After every game, they were in the lobby, passing out 2 cheeseburgers and a milkshake, vanilla milkshake, to every player. So we I think maybe because the Booster Club was declining or whatever, but we got away from that, and then we brought that back, and just with pizza.
Right.
We would give pizza to the kids, but it's just a way of, a little touch saying, "Hey, we appreciate your effort," and So I think that's a great testimony to those booster people that did all that, and they worked really well with me. I mean, because we were actively involved in fundraising too. I mean, so we recognized how much they do for us, and we wanted to help out as much as we could too.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on that 1987 team? Coaches, players, anything that you want to leave with?
The coaching staff kind of, I don't want to say transformed, but we got more guys. Okay, we got more guys, and we had a number of guys that were volunteers. I mean, that weren't getting paid anything, and with the understanding that, you know, when something opened, as far as a payable contract, you know, they would come, and that's how we built staff. But that original gang, they, you know, I mean, you know this as the head coach, you're going to get all the criticism,
right? Right.
You know, I mean, that's how it works, and you try to shield your guys from all that stuff,
right?
And you want to think that you got big enough shoulders to handle all that. But I can say this, and I said this earlier, I've been extremely blessed with guys like yourself and all the guys that I've had, that, you know, hey, listen, no matter what happens, we got your back, you know. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I never had to worry about anybody cutting my legs off or anything like that. Everything was always positive.
Yeah, and I think that's that was evident with the longevity of guys that you had on your staff, right? Like,
sure.
you didn't have a lot of turnover. Maybe a spot here, a spot there, but and people weren't jumping ship just to go somewhere else. Usually they were getting a different job, or there were family things.
Right.
You know, that first staff, you know, Dobe, he was with you for a number of years through there. The Gesslers, in some form or fashion,
yep,
were with you for a number of years. You know, I think you always had those pillars that were there, and
yeah, and I'm glad you said the word pillars, because the foundation of our program, that's what we wanted. We came in as a staff, and we wanted to establish the 4 building blocks of program, which we felt were God, family, education, and program. And consequently, we, again, legally or illegally, we prayed a lot together. We did a lot together as a family. And we were doing, you know, we and this was a new wrinkle, we put in study table progress reports. We were, you know, we were having group sessions to get ready for a test after practices sometimes, in addition to study table. So all the things that lend itself to building a program, we were trying to. That's what those first 3 years were, and especially that first year, were essential.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you know, you fast forward 15 years, when I had the opportunity to coach for you, a lot of those things were still in place. But they were more tools, right? Like, you didn't always have to have some of those test preps. I think what I'm trying to say is you set the culture, that's the expectation, and those kids kind of, it takes care of itself a little bit, you know?
Exactly. What the biggest obstacles that we were facing were not interfering parents, and was not a negative community. It was factors within the building, and being in the building for the first time, it was an eye opener, because I saw the things that were counterproductive to what we were trying to do raise their ugly head. Okay, and I'm talking about steroids and drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and kids would come to me and say, "Hey, you know, I'm not going to rat on anybody, but you know, one of your players was at this party and he may have been drinking."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm talking about a high school kid would come up to me in homeroom or whatever and just tell me this. I'd get phone calls saying there's a party up the street. Jump in my car and drive to it. Kids would be jumping out the windows. Okay. I'd go to McDonald's. This is the truth. I'd go to McDonald's after games. Okay. And bring my players up to my nose, make them talk to me to see if I smelled something on their breath, because I didn't trust it. No, because that was what kids were doing. And I just, you know, as much as we preached it and much, you know, they signed a pledge sheet and everything, you know, I wanted them to know that it was a concern of mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, steroids became a big thing and kids were pushing it. And I remember kids that were pushing it, and I said, I will have a policeman on your doorstep if I even hear that you're selling something to my players or any kid in this building. And I had kids in the program admit that they were using steroids, have them had a blood test, which legally I had no basis of doing, met with their parents and them, had them have a blood test. Once they were found to have this in their bloodstream, that they had to go through rehab.
Yeah.
They had to go through a rehab process. And until a time where they had a clean blood test, they were suspended from the program.
Jeez, man.
And I was very adamant at that time, and this was 1987, about I even met with an alumni. Gary Stelter was up in Syracuse at the time, and he was working for a drug company, and I got all the information about starting drug testing, urine analysis,
Okay.
like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
And they shot me down downtown.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it. They said, if you do it, then we'd have to do it for all schools, and we can't afford it. And I said, well, then have them go out and raise the money like I'm going to raise the money. And they just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's. Did you get support within the building for that? I mean, to me, I would think that your principal, assistant principal would feel pretty good about you trying to, just help with the culture of the building. But I could also see where Ron's beating down the wrong door. Like it could cause some problems too. So how was?
It's maybe it's that, and maybe this is not the case at all. But maybe it's, well, you know what? We don't want to open up that can. A lot of coaches took the attitude, well, you know what? If I don't have to deal with it, I won't deal with it. I'll turn a blind eye. But we wanted to send that message. We are not going to turn a blind eye to it. Mm-hmm. And this is before you came. At one point, we heard of a party after a game that involved a number of our younger kids, our junior varsity. Well, I had them stand in a line, okay? And I said, if you're guilty of being at this party and imbibing, then I want you to step forward. And 2 or 3 kids stepped forward, mm-hmm. and I threw them off the team. Not permanently. They were suspended for like a 2-week period.
Yeah.
But we wanted to send a message. So, again, if you go back through the years and you interviewed every kid in our program and said, did you smoke? Did you drink? Did you chew? Did you do a steroid? I'm sure that there's going to be kids that said, well, yes.
Yeah.
But they knew that we were addressing it. And I'm telling you, if nothing else, if that kind of attention that we were bringing to it did nothing else, it nipped the steroid thing in the bud.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was right when we started to cross the threshold of growing to being pretty good.
Yeah.
And the dealers or what, no one was coming around, and our kids knew that it was just, they were as far away from, if I suspected anything, they were as far away from that as me mandating that they be tested.
Yeah. And well, in talking to you about that JV player situation, I always thought that you were really good at, you gave the perception of black and white. But the reality of it was you also understood that, each kid was an individual, that restorative piece. So, yeah, you're going to be punished, and there's going to be consequences. But very few things where you're like, hey, we got to part ways, and there's no road to redemption.
Yeah.
You always left that road to redemption to bring a kid back or give him an opportunity because, that's what we're doing, right? We're trying to build young men. I didn't realize that I know back in the 80s steroids was a little at some point it was legal through a doctor, that type of thing. I didn't realize that it was such a
real quick story on that. When Paul Lamangi played for me in 80, he would have been a senior in 88, season of 88. He come to me in tears. A teacher, because of the weight room,
mm-hmm.
said, "Hey, man, you're really getting cut up and big. Are you on steroids?" and Paul said, "Coach, I didn't know what to say other than, no, of course not. I'm not." He says, "But how could he even think that?" And I explained to him. It would be no different than me seeing a kid in our program jump from a 220 bench to a 275 bench in a month and saying, "Hey, what's going on here?" I'd have to at least ask him.
Yeah.
I'd have to at least say, "Hey, listen, that's quite a significant jump. Is there a possibility that you're dabbling in something that's illegal?" And I'd be obligated to do that, and he got it then. But
yeah, but I think always, and I remember this. I think the trap is for people who maybe have never invested or never been part of a weightlifting program or never made the commitment that football players in the off season make. You're in the weight room working extremely hard 3-4 days a week and putting in the time. You're going to see results and your body's going to change. And I think we've talked about this before. Maybe because it's a microwave society, I want it right now. Oh, well, it's got to be some other supplement. They got to be cheating. It couldn't be hard work, right? Yeah. It couldn't be the dedication.
Right.
And that's where it's a little.
Well, after that initial wave of not wave, but there were a handful of guys involved in that I met with their parents and denied participation till the time that they were tested, and that was off season.
Mm-hmm.
That anytime that would come up, and I'd have a yearly program, a yearly drug program with Trestle, and then Roland Smith used to come in for Mahoney County Chemical Dependency, and he would talk to the kids about illegal substances and substance abuse and that type of thing. But whenever any kind of caution flag went up, I would just grab Robert Drake and say, "Hey, you want to see hard work and dedication? Watch Robert work in the weight room."
Yeah, you're not lying. I mean, one of a kind there.
Yeah, that's a fact.
One of a kind. Any lasting comments?
No, just and you got to promise not to edit this out. I think these sessions are good, and I don't claim to be 100% authority on all of this. I say what I know, but I want you to know that I appreciate you as a loyal Irish Ursuline grad, and a longtime coach for Chaney. The production that you and your son Braden put on, I think, is outstanding, and I think a lot of people will really appreciate this.
Yeah, it's just enjoyable to sit down and talk with you, and for me, it's always been about, just the conversations that we've had over the years, just informally, and the questions that I ask you, and how interesting it is to me. So, without you, this is I just think I think it's a really important thing also, because it's such a special story. It's such a special experience for a lot of people, and to have your insight to it, it's needed, and we'll capture it. So, I'm enjoying it.
Let's keep doing it.
All right.